Hi, I'm Marie. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to make some joy.
For a non-traditional Thanksgiving, we'll be making chicken and shrimp stir fry.
For the chicken shrimp stir fry, we're going to of course need some nice shrimp, some mushrooms that we're going to chop up, fresh ginger, some garlic. I'm going to add some onion. The recipe didn't call for it, but I really do like it with onion. Broccoli florets, frozen or fine. We're going to use some toasted sesame oil and of course some soy sauce. This is tamari. It's the same as soy sauce, just has a little bit more flavor. Salt, of course, I like the kosher. Then we'll also be using some fresh ground pepper, olive oil for our pan. We'll also need some, we'll need some chicken broth. Again, I like that better than bouillon. It's really good. We'll need some brown sugar. You can use dark or light, really your preference on that. Then we'll need some flour. This is going to be a thickener for this. If you want to use cornstarch, because somebody needs to be careful with gluten, you can always use cornstarch instead of flour. That's always a possibility. And then, of course, our chicken. It called for white, but for this recipe, I'm going to use dark chicken. So really, I have done this before, and dark chicken works just as well as the white chicken. All right, so for our stir fry that we're making, of course, we're going to start with a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to start that in about a medium hot pan. Okay, we're going to let that just heat up for a few minutes as we let this heat up. In the meantime, I'm going to add a little salt and pepper onto my chicken and get that ready. Again, I said I was using dark meat. And I did brine that dark meat as well. But you need to add just a little bit of extra salt and then pepper to that. So I'm just going to let this heat up a little bit. Okay. Then once this has been heated up, because we want a nice hot pan, and then we will add the chicken. Okay, so basically I want my olive oil till it's about a nice shimmer, which I can also smell, so it's at that smoking point. So I'm going to add that chicken, like I said, added some salt and pepper. This is about 1 pound of dark meat that I'm adding. And we just want to brown this very nicely here. I'm just going to add that to my large skillet. You could use white, you could use dark. It's really up to you what you prefer on this one. You don't necessarily have to use white or dark. There's not one difference over the other. It's more of a preference, I would say. And by the way, this recipe came from the Tasty app. So if you have the Tasty app, definitely check it out. See the different recipes they have in there and use those recipes. Again, I'll add the ingredients and whatnot to the description so you have that information so you can do this recipe yourself as well. And again, always wash your hands after touching raw meat. It's very important to wash your hands. So we've got a nice sizzle on our chicken. Again, we're going to let that just kind of sit a minute, let that brown, and then once we feel that it's ready, we'll go ahead and we'll start stirring this. Okay, so our chicken is about halfway cooked, so I'm just going to give this a stir. Cooking up nicely, actually turn the heat up to about a medium high. Get that nice browning. As you can see, I got a little bit of browning. That's what I'm looking for on my meat. There we go. Just want to get these turned. I'm going to cook them mostly the way because once I add them to the sauce and whatnot, I can let them finish off in the sauce. And we're going to add shrimp to this, so that's a little different from the recipe. But you can always do some additions if you want. If you want, you can do shrimp instead of chicken. You could add pork if you want to do pork instead. You can always do whatever dish you would like to have with it. Okay, so we're just going to give that a couple more minutes. So that way it can finish up on the stove and finish cooking our meat. There we go. So we're just going to give that a few more minutes. Alright, so our chicken now has a nice browning on it. It's pretty much cooked. Like I said, this cubed chicken will actually cook quite quickly. So what I'm going to do is just take this off the heat. For now, I'm going to end up cooking some shrimp, okay, my other protein, which is going to go pretty fast. Just to let you know, it usually takes shrimp maybe about 2 minutes to cook up. But basically, I'm going to have this off to the side. Leave a little remnants in there. That's always good stuff. So I love dark meat. Dark meat always cooks up very nice. Takes in those sauces, you know. I eat a lot of white chicken, but I really love it when I can get some dark meat too. It's really nice. So again, just going to move that from the skillet. Ooh, likes to pop. But in here is a lot of nice fond, which is those nice browning pieces. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just add the shrimp. So this is about 1 pound of shrimp that's been defrosted. And if you watch my salad spinner video, you can see how I took care of that. That's what's really nice. And then afterwards, it's very easy to clean that salad spinner. Soap and water. They do say it's dishwasher safe. The only thing I get afraid of is, yeah, lots of things are dishwasher safe, but the dishwasher can also ruin stuff. And I really love my salad spinner, so I wash it by hand so that way I never have to worry about it. And it's really easy, actually, to wash it by hand. So I'm going to put my shrimp in the pan. What I'm looking for is really just to kind of brown it a little bit, add a little browning to this, something a little different than just a steamed shrimp. That typically is what you have, right, at restaurants. So we're going to get a little bit of browning put on this shrimp. There we go. Like I said, it's not going to take very long, maybe 2 to 5 minutes, maybe, to cook the shrimp, because it's not going to take very long to get that done at all. And again, when you're working with raw food, always wash your hands. I always wash my hands, and I always be very cautious with that. Alright, so my shrimp is going. I'm going to add just a touch of salt to it. Again, salt as you go, that's always a good thing. It just adds a little bit more flavor to your food, and then you don't have to salt at the very end, okay? Not too much because we will have a soy sauce added to it. I am using a reduced soy sauce though, so that's what's really nice. It's not quite as much sodium as your typical soy sauce. Let me move that out of the way. There we go. So I like a nice reduced soy sauce or tamari. Tamari is very nice too. It's the same as soy sauce. So I'm just going to let this sit here and let this cook a little bit. Like I said, I want to get a little bit brown, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, so checking the shrimp. Ah, look at that, nice, has a little bit of browning. That's what I'm looking for, okay? A little bit of glazing on it, just natural. It may be sticking a little to the pan. That's okay. That's adding flavor. Again, fond, think of fond. So that's not a bad thing. Because the wonderful thing about this is when we add the vegetables in, it's going to end up mixing with those vegetables, mixing with the sauce, adding even more flavor. So on this side, I'm just going to give it maybe, once I turn these, I'm going to give it just a minute to let them get a little bit of browning on the second side, which won't take very long because I really want to keep these still nice and plump for our dish. Alright, so the shrimp is about where I want it. It has some nice browning on both sides. So I'm going to take that off of the pan as well. Okay. So I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, I got to take all these proteins out. Well, if you want them all nicely cooked, then yes. If you have a real nice big wok, I'll be honest with you, you probably just take the chicken out, wait for the shrimp maybe towards the end, and then add your vegetables and the sauce, and add the chicken back in at the very end. But in this case, I want some nice browning on my shrimp. It just makes the dish a little bit more delicious. So that's why I'm kind of taking the time and the care to do this. Don't worry, it's going to stay warm because everything else goes fast once we start adding those vegetables. So next thing I'm going to add once I'm done with the shrimp is I'm going to add the onions. So I'm just adding some nice diced onions to this. Go. Hear that sizzle? That sounds nice. And what's going to happen is these onions, since they have water in them, they're going to pick up that fond, that browning. As you can see, it already is picking up that fond from that shrimp and the chicken. That's just going to add more flavor to this dish. So I'm just going to let those go a little bit. Basically, I want them to nice soften. You smell that perfume. It smells so good. Okay, so the next thing I want to actually add the mushrooms. So I have some chopped mushrooms that I'm going to add in here. There we go. Now, a little tip. You never want to put mushrooms in direct oil, even though the recipe may tell you, because mushrooms is a fungi. It's different than, of course, your regular vegetables. But if you put your vegetables in with oil, what do? They brown, they cook, they get wonderful. It's different with mushrooms. They will actually just soak in the oil. So actually, you would rather have a dry pan. Let them cook a little bit, like a minute or two in the skillet, and then add your oil. Don't add mushrooms directly to oil. You can always do like I did with the onions and then add your mushrooms, and they'll soften and get nice and brown in that way. If you're just cooking mushrooms up, you can always put them actually in the microwave for about, if you have a large amount, put in about 1 minute. Not so big, go about 30 seconds and start there. That's how I do it. See, and they're cooking up very nice here. Very nice. All right, next dish we're going to make is going to be the celery. This is one that's actually not in the recipe, but I always love to add celery to any kind of Asian dish. This is about a half a cup of chopped celery. I know what it is, always add something nice. Now, just a little tip. If you don't have sliced celery, you can always add a little celery salt, maybe about a half a teaspoon, fourth a teaspoon. And what that will do, so cut back on your other salt if you do add that. But what that will do is actually add that little bit of celery flavor if you don't have any actual celery. So always remember, celery salt can be a friend and a help in these dishes as well, and add that flavor you're looking for. Ooh, that looks so nice with all those vegetables. That looks great. They're getting nice and soft. Okay, next dish we're going to make is going to be the broccoli. So basically I have frozen broccoli that all I did was defrost it in the microwave for a little bit. And that's all I need. It's cold, but that skillet's going to get it nice and hot and turn into a nice bright green once it's done. Again, it's stir fry, so I'm not going to like try to overcook it. That's what I'm trying to avoid, is trying to overcook. I want it until it's nice and bright and green is what I'm looking for. So you could add any vegetable you want. If you feel adventurous, baby bok choy is wonderful. Cabbage, you could do cabbage in here. You could do peppers. You could do carrots. If you have like a Normandy mix, which is cauliflower, broccoli, and carrots, you can do that. You can do fresh. You can do frozen. This dish can be very versatile in that way. That's what I love about it. It's a quick Asian dish that my family enjoys with some egg drop soup. I have attached the link for the egg drop soup to this recipe, so that way you can try that soup with this entree. Alright, we're going to let that go for just a minute or two and let that soften and cook. Okay, so everything kind of softened, so now I'm ready to go ahead. I'm going to add the sauce. So I'm going to go ahead, because I want to add this to my vegetables. I created like a little well here, and so I'm going to first start. The base is going to be minced garlic and ginger. So I'm going to add that, and basically I want to cook that until it's nice and fragrant. So I should, sorry about that. So I should be able to smell that in like about 30 seconds, honestly. So we're just going to let that, oh, I can already smell it getting fragrant. Next thing we're going to add is some soy sauce. This is about a third a cup is what it calls for. This is reduced sodium. So I really like it. It's reduced sodium tamari, actually. So I'm still trying to keep it right here in the center, because I'm going to have some other things I'm going to add. Then I'm going to stir it all up with all of my vegetables, but really I want to keep this more in the center with everything. In this case, it uses chicken broth, about a cup of chicken broth, but in this case I'm going to use my handy dandy better than bouillon that I love. Sorry, love it. But you could definitely just use regular chicken broth to add to this. So I'm just gonna, what's nice is that all I gotta do is just add the water. So this has so much flavor, I don't wanna get rid of it. So I just take the remnants, put it into the sauce like this, and that gets all that little bits off. Those little bits matter. I want that little bits in my sauce here. Okay, then we're going to add a little bit of sweetness, so there is some brown sugar, about 1 tablespoon brown sugar that we're going to add to this. So we're just going to melt that in. Just a touch of sweetness, kind of to blend everything, because this is a very savory dish. Takes the edge off of it. As you can see, the sauce is coming around very, very nicely. It's going to coat everything very, very, very well. Okay, the next thing I want is the flour. It's about 1/4 cup of flour is what it calls for. You could use cornstarch instead of flour if you want. And basically what I'm going to do is I want to toast this flour with the sauce. It's going to help thicken. That's what this is going to do. So you want to make sure that you thicken this. So first I'm going to have this going almost like create kind of a roux with this. Then I'm going to add the water that's needed for that chicken broth that we added. And that was, just to let you know, that chicken broth I added was probably about a teaspoon, because I did, I'm adding 1 cup of broth. So I'm going to go, or 1 cup of water, pardon me. So I'm going to add in my 1 cup of water. Oops, spilled a little there, sorry. And this is going to break up those little pieces here. Don't worry, it's going to thin. Just keep stirring. If it looks lumpy, just keep stirring. If you stop, that's why you get those lumps. You just got to keep going. That's the biggest tip I can give you. I'm going to switch over into a whisk. That might help me out a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of my water in here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a whisk. The whisk actually is going to get right in there, get that flour for me. So I'm just going to put my spoon down. I'm going to get that flour. See, it's going to start stirring it really well. Oops, got to keep my liquids in there, making a mess here. There we go. So we're just going to keep on going, stirring this in. This will break down. I'm going to turn the heat up just a touch. That helps too if you just turn up the heat a little. You can see it's starting to break down. The little things you're seeing is the ginger, the garlic, the other spices, not the flour. That flour breaks down, don't worry. I'm going to keep going until that flour breaks down. So I'm going to have all these vegetables. Now if you want to do the sauce separately, you can, and then add it to your vegetables. That's really up to you. I kind of wanted to combine, so that way I have everything in one pan for myself. I don't have to worry about that. So I'm just going to keep on stirring, and we're going to get this sauce blended in with the vegetables. All right, so our sauce is now thickened and brown. It looks wonderful with our vegetables. We're going to go ahead, we're going to add our chicken next. Make sure that gets all nice and stirred in. Perfect. This is just a little too thick. I'm going to add just a little bit more water. That's why I always keep just a little bit of water to the side. So that way if something looks like it's just a little too thick, I can always just add a little water, thin it. No worries, it's not going to do anything to the taste. And always taste your sauce and whatnot before, with a little bit of meat, before you actually serve it to your family. It's so important to check and make sure those seasonings are just right. So again, adding just a little bit more water, because the last thing I'm going to add is the shrimp back into this. And then we're going to top this with actually a little bit of sesame oil once we get the shrimp in here. That looks nice. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add the shrimp back. This is going to warm up our shrimp. Perfect. And my husband, he always goes to Hy-Vee, and he can always get a good deal, because we'll end up buying like about 10 bags of shrimp, because we love shrimp. And he can end up getting an extra $1 off each bag, so that's pretty awesome. I like working with Hy-Vee. Their produce is really good. They have a lot of good meats, seafoods. I like their stuff. I buy a lot of my stuff from natural grocers because, of course, I buy a lot of organic. So I'm very cautious about the things that I buy, just because, you know, I'm feeding family. I want to make sure I'm feeding them right. So I do think about organic and stuff like that. So again, I add a little bit more water because it just was a little too thick again. I want everything to get covered in this sauce. The shrimp's just going to warm up in here. The chicken is warming up in here. It's taking a nice little bath. So I just want to make sure, get underneath everything, get it all stirred in. So to finish this off, now the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons. I'd be very careful with sesame oil. It is quite potent. So I'm actually not going to add 2. I only want 1 teaspoon of sesame oil. And I think a lot of people on the site too, on Tasty, said, 2 teaspoons is a bit much. You just want a hint. That's all you want, is just a hint of the sesame oil. You don't want it overpowering the dish. So we're going to stir that in and let that get settled. Perfect. Oh, that looks beautiful. Last thing you want to do is you want to taste your dish. Make sure the seasonings are right. Do we need to add a little bit more salt? Do we need to add a little bit of pepper to balance it out? Just going to make sure was just a little too thick again. I don't want too thick. So I'm going to taste just a little bit of the sauce and chicken with my broccoli. Very hot. Make sure you blow on it. Wow. No, it doesn't need any more seasoning. That is perfect. My family is going to just enjoy this. We're going to have this with a side of riced cauliflower. So if you're looking for something that has if you're looking for something that's a little less on the carbs, riced cauliflower is fantastic. You just heat it up in the microwave. They sell them pretty much anywhere now. If you love rice, you can definitely have your rice with this. But we're going to have it over rice cauliflower with my egg drop soup that I made. And we're just going to enjoy this tonight. So, tell me if you like this dish. You know, definitely add some comments. Let me know if you love this, or if there were some things that you didn't care for, or you have other ideas of things you'd want to add. Yes, you could add snow peas, you could add other veggies. It's a wonderful dish to try with your family or just yourself. If you just want to try this yourself, go ahead and you'll have wonderful leftovers. It'd be great for, you know, weekday meal. You could definitely do this one during the weekday. So remember, make some joy. Enjoy your dinner, enjoy your food, enjoy your life. Thank you.
If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos like these to give you some joy, please click on the subscribe and the bell to receive notification of my newest videos. Thank you.